We're live? Dang. We're ready. Okay. What's up, everybody? This is Small Axe Talks. I'm here today with Lara Piu, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
Beautiful. So we're, just for a little background information, we're neighbors at the moment. And I met Lara through another person that we live with. And she's written a few books. And I'd like to get into that, but first I kind of want to get into just like a little more information like about you and your background.
Yeah.
So would you mind just kind of telling me about that?
Sure. Absolutely. Glad to. I'm an intuition expert and 3-time best-selling author. So I do several things. My background is really in marketing and PR, and that's what I did for 25 years. And I thought that I was so creative. But what I learned in my later years was that I was really intuitive. Because, I would meet people and I would be like, I'd have this whole story about them in my head. And I just thought I made up stories in my head. But then I realized, no, I'm just very intuitive. Like, I'm just tuning into what their story is. And so, I used that intuition throughout my career, in marketing, and I also owned a flower shop, and so now I'm kind of taking all that and teaching intuition to business owners, and also doing intuitive sessions. So basically, what would otherwise be known as a psychic medium.
Oh, really? Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, specializing in business, but also doing all kinds of readings, but I am known for my business readings. Okay. Business owners will come to me and they'll ask me questions and, different choices that they're trying to make, and I'll tell them what I'm seeing, reading the energy in the field.
So I know are you from Arizona originally, or did you grow up here?
So we moved from New York way back in 1987. So I've been here a long time. Yeah.
Cool. And I know you went to ASU as well, right? And you graduated there, and then you went to Portland?
Portland State for grad school. And then, and then I started working.
And why did you decide to go to Portland for grad school?
Well, it was either Portland or Boston, because I wanted to go somewhere that was seasonal, different. Yeah. Exactly. And Boston was 4 times the cost than Portland. So Portland was an easy choice for the cost.
Yeah, it's a great city. I like Portland a lot.
Yeah, it was, because that was back in 1990. So
that was probably pretty cool.
It was an interesting time to be in Portland because it was really growing at that time. There was so much construction, and it was sort of like a hidden gem. I don't think that people really thought about Portland. So sort of off the radar. But yeah, it was really nice. And I lived right at Northwest 23rd and Irving, which is just kind of a fun little, artsy retail area that was just a lot of fun.
Is that downtown? Is that more like downtown?
It's close to downtown, but it's more it was like one of those neighborhoods that started as a artsy neighborhood, and then it became cool and hip, and all the cool retail stores came in. But there was lots of you could just walk down the street and there's dining and bars, and and it was just a fun little scene.
So when you graduated, you wanted to get out of there, though? You were kind of done with Portland?
Yeah, because I loved Portland, but it rains 4 out of the 7 days a week. And when I first moved there, I was like, I just might live here for the rest of my life. I love it. It's so green. It's beautiful. I mean, even the rocks have moss, it's just everything's so green. Yeah. But by the end, I was like, I cannot wait to leave because I just missed my son. Yeah. But the people are nice, and so much culture there, and there's a lot to love about Portland. I like my son.
Yeah, I lived there for less than a year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and it was the same thing. I was like, okay, this was interesting to check out, and it's really, cool, eclectic, electric, type of
and
city
electric,
yeah. So I like that, but the rain was just being from Arizona. There was oh my god, there's no way I can do this.
It's a huge adjustment.
Yeah, it's crazy. But so what were you studying though when you were there?
Public administration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's see. Going back to that time of my life, I I actually started college as a dance major.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I had an injury, and it was actually a blessing, really, because my self-confidence was so low. I didn't think I was smart, even though I actually, like, looking back, I would test in like the 98th percentile for a lot of subjects. So it's like, why did I think I was dumb? But
Yeah.
but that I did is kind of like the dance culture.
Okay.
It's you're a dancer, you're not smart. That's kind of the culture
Oh, wow.
of it, that like Balanchine had started a long time ago. And so I kind of, having that injury was really a blessing for me, because it got me out of that culture and into like, okay, studying and doing things. And I ended up getting, I wanted to get into occupational therapy originally. And I decided that that was not going to be for me. So I missed writing a lot, and with my interest in medicine and writing, my counselor suggested health administration and possibly arts administration, since I also had an interest in art. So getting a master's in public administration kind of made sense and gave me some options in there. But then I volunteered at this nonprofit symposium as a graduate. I was like about to graduate, and this
Okay.
woman recruited me because she was like, so I had this, I was working with this lady I was volunteering at the information desk. Okay. And this woman comes to me, and she's like not crazy, but she was like really mad and irate, and, and I was like dealing with her, and, a lady who owned a PR firm came to me right after that, and she's like, "You've got to do PR." And I'm like, "No, I'm not a PR student. I'm MPA, public administration. No." And she's like, "No, you've got to do it. Like, you were really good. You're a good communicator." I'm like, "Okay." So from there, that's how I got my first job at Wells Fargo, doing
Oh, wow.
PR. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
through
interesting.
her. And I took a totally different career direction. So I never,
Wow.
for me, getting my master's degree, it was just more of a personal thing. I'm not sure that it ever really like helped my career, but it was just something I wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, it's probably like I've never been like a big school person, but I know like a lot of people are, and that's one thing I think that's interesting about like continuing your education is you can like study different, whatever fields or like avenues that you could potentially go down and learn a little more, and then you're like, okay, yeah, maybe I don't want to do this, and whatever, move on to something else.
Yeah. I think for me, looking back on that dance experience and where my mindset was at as a dancer, it appealed to me to try to like challenge myself and go to grad school. I think that was really the appeal of it for me, even though like I don't know that it really helped me, although it did, because that's how I got my first job.
Yeah. So how was that when you got into that field of PR and
Wells Fargo?
Yeah, working for Wells
Oh
Fargo.
my gosh, I loved it. I mean, I just loved it. It was everything. I just was really grateful that I loved what I did for so many years. I did PR for about 10 years, and then I worked in advertising after that, mostly doing as an account executive, with some offshoots into some other, but yeah, for the most part, that's what I did.
Okay.
And I really loved being in marketing for so long.
Yeah.
I felt like it came to me easily. Not that it was easy, but it felt natural for me. Yeah.
I love that. It's great.
Yeah.
So what made you kind of, as your career grew and you got older, what made you kind of transition to where the point you are now?
Yes.
I know you had mentioned like
Well,
in your information that you have done some online businesses of your own, and obviously you got into a couple books and this whole topic. So how did you like move towards that direction?
yeah, actually it's kind of interesting because I would really say that where it started was sort of just happenstance. So I got divorced many years ago. So
Okay. Sorry about that.
I was only married for about 2 years. And so, as a single mom, and my daughter wanted to do club cheer. and it was very expensive. I mean, club cheer is
Club
like
cheer, what is that? Like a dance cheerleading thing?
it's cheer, but it's not with the school. It's like with a studio. And I mean, this, like, anyone who's been in it knows, I mean, you could spend $10,000 or $20,000 a year just sending your kid to club cheer. Yeah, it's expensive. Like, I'm not joking when I say it's expensive. So I decided to start freelance writing on the side. So I had my job, and then I would do freelance writing on the side. I did editorial writing, I did corporate writing, and that's, and then I just, what was it, 2016? I think it was 2016 came, and I was like, man, I've always wanted to like work for myself. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to try it, because at this point, because I had been freelancing to send her to cheer, now she was no longer in cheer, but I had all this extra work. I thought, okay, I can start with that part-time. I have a part-time portfolio of work. Now I just need to kind of fill up the rest, right? I thought, well, I kind of have a running start as a business owner, you know? So I did it. And, you know, at first it was very scary. And I was like,
why is that? Why do you say
oh, because I wasn't sure, you know?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was going to work. And I had to make a lot of adjustments along the way of like, how, you know, what kind of work I was going to take, what kind of work I wasn't going to take, and how I was going to get clients. But I figured it out. And so after doing that for about 3 years or so, where it started was I kept on feeling this pull to write the first book. And I remember going, okay, God, like, I feel you. I feel this thing, like, you want me to write this book. I get it. But you got to show me how, because I'm busy. Like, I was a single mom. I was, you know, I at that time, my dad was like sick, and I was helping with that. And, you know, there's a lot going on. But yeah, so I felt guided in how to do it. And I figured out some ways to do it very efficiently. And
that's not this one.
That's
right?
not
This
this one.
What
Yeah.
was the first one called?
It was called Hear God Now, Divine Guidance for Women on the Go.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and and so it was one of those things, like, I did it in my spare time. When it launched, I emailed it out to like 200 people that were on my email list, like email contacts, and then I did like 2 posts on Facebook, and it became a bestseller. My boyfriend at the time texted me. He's like, "Did you know your book was like #1?" And I was like, "What?"
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I realized, okay, there's a need for this. There was a big response. I had this, like, all these people signed up for I think in like 72 hours, 3,000 people signed up for my email list.
Wow,
it was
that's crazy.
It might have been more. It was, all I know is the response was big, and I was like, okay, I
That's
see.
a lot of interest.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. And after a while, I decided, okay, if I could make that other business work from scratch, maybe I can figure this out. So I started doing this. I put aside all my marketing stuff only just last year, and I started doing this full time last year, which was like crazy because it was 2020 and it was everything.
That's the perfect time though.
In a way it was. I kind of got shoved into it, but in a way it was, and in a way it wasn't, because like everybody was so like indecisive because of COVID. It was really like everything was up in the air, I felt like, with people. But I ended up talking to someone, and anyway, I ended up getting some good advice, and that got me going in the right direction. So yeah, so I'm glad I did it.
So just out of curiosity, the first book, how long did it take you to write? And how'd you do it? Like, what was the process?
A few months. Now, of course, keep in mind, I am a writer.
Okay.
So, like,
you're familiar with, like,
yeah. So I'm,
writing
I'm
things
a published writer. I've done a lot. I used to work for Grad, and, so I've written a lot, but, how I would do it, the first thing I was doing is, when I had my job, I would open up notes and like use the transcription like, you know how
On like
the
that
voice
app?
memo?
Oh,
Yeah.
the voice memo. Okay.
Yeah. And just like free flow thought
Hmm.
on my drive to work.
That's
And I
interesting.
could get in like probably, you know, 800 to 1,000 words a day like that.
Wow.
So that was
Every day, like,
really,
you
yeah. And I
consistently
just
do
like
it?
every day, even when I didn't want to do it, I was like, I'm just going to like turn it on and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, like then once I was working, that's how I got it started. Then once I started working for myself and I was kind of like had more control over my schedule, what I would do is I would just spend every morning 15 minutes before I answered any client emails, did anything with clients. I just wrote for 15 minutes. It didn't matter what happened. I was just going to do it. And I could get in usually, again, another, 1,000 words or so. So I just
Okay.
did that for as long as it took.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I did an outline and stuff too, but that was, for
Before
me,
you
it was
got it.
more like free flow versus like, but yeah.
So
For this book was a little different, but
Okay.
yeah.
So the first book was kind of aimed more towards women. Is that your
Yeah.
intention with that?
Mm-hmm.
And why is that? Like, what was the main message kind of just behind the book?
The main message was actually very similar to the message here. It's just that this is more geared towards business owners. The main message being, we all have our intuition.
Yeah.
You don't need to doubt it. It's working in the background at all times. You just need to be part of the conversation. And then I show a method of how to be part of that conversation that's very easy, that doesn't necessarily require you to like, meditate 20 minutes a day or do something or say something or be someone, like just integrate it into your day. Not to knock, I love meditation and I love all the, yoga and all the things that help us clear our mind. But I mean, realistically, for people, women on the go, it's like, who has time for that?
Yeah.
I know more than anyone as a single mom. It's like, who's got time for that? So I wanted to empower people with a way to like use their intuition as they're
Help
going
them.
in life.
Yeah. That's why I thought this was interesting when I first had seen the title, the analytical intuition method, but aimed more towards like businesses. Like I feel that's people are pretty receptive to that, like as just a normal like in your life type thing, as far as the intuition. And I feel like maybe women, I don't know, I could be wrong, are more like receptive to that. But as like if you're applying that to like all people, especially in a business setting, I think that's a little more unique. Like people aren't. I haven't heard as much about that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, there are companies that are doing corporate training on intuition, and the government is I mean, the military works with intuition and like remote viewing, and yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like how? How do
Well, I wish I knew all the details, but I just I know from clients who've told me, like, Lara, they are teaching us this stuff. And I'm like,
wow.
Oh, really?
That's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, because the thing is that the science backs it. That's what this book was more about. Because I had really so in the first book, I taught my method. And it was just a method that I created organically, something that I figured worked for me.
In
it
your
worked
own
for me,
life.
so I taught it.
Yeah. Okay.
But then over time, I was curious, like, okay, well, what does the science say about this? Like, does the science even back what I'm saying? And also, like, what do different religions say about this? And it was very consistent. So, for example, like, one of the consistent things was the heart. The seat of intuition is our heart. The top 5 religions of the world all talk about this with the wisdom of God coming in through the heart. But science says it too. So like Heart Math Institute talks about or has proven that we receive intuition in our heart, and there's a physical sensation that they can measure when it arrives.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not your brain. It's not coming from your mind,
No,
your mind power.
That was one of the things that I discovered, like in, when I was just experimenting it with myself. The mind is a battlefield. The mind will be attacked by your own ego, your own needs, your own self, but then also the forces of the universe. I always say there's divine and then there's distraction. So I just kind of boil it down to those two things.
Yeah.
The mind is susceptible to distractions, whereas the heart is protected. If you choose to have it protected, it's protected by the divine. So yeah, that's kind of not that we, but I think where a lot of people go wrong too is you think of like intuition. It's like either intuition or analytical thinking, but they're meant to go together at all times. They're never a standalone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I feel like for me personally, just like getting a little bit older, like I definitely feel like when you're younger, like you go less more towards the intuition, you go more towards like advice of other people or what is like the traditional route or whatever to go down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's like super interesting how you can follow that more. So how did you get into wanting to write this book about that and like apply that towards, you know, like businesses and stuff like that?
Yeah, I felt really called to, because of my background in corporate life and in advertising and also as a business owner, I felt really called to bring this into like that world, you know, versus, I mean, I love teaching it to women and really anyone, honestly, but
just using your personal
but
life.
I felt like that was something that I could really, I don't know, it just was really calling my name, and it made a lot of sense for me having come from that background because I kind of could speak their language and I understand where they're coming from, you know, because I came from that world. So yeah, and the other thing is I just know it's helped me as a business owner a lot. So for example, I had owned a flower shop in 2000, I don't know, remember now when it was, 2006.
Okay.
6 or 7.
You're in Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
What was it called?
It was the Flowerama of Glendale.
Oh, okay.
And over at, I don't think it's no longer there, over at Bell and I don't know, 54th Ave or so.
Okay, yeah.
And but I knew nothing about flowers. I knew nothing about owning a business. Very little about owning a business.
Yeah.
And I co-owned it with someone else, but I ran it myself. And so it was a franchise of about 236 units. We were like nowhere on the map, and within the 8 months that I think within the first 8 months, I got it to #1 store in the franchise in the U.S. Yeah, and that was me like selling every single person that walked through that store. That's how that happened. And I realized, again, it was that intuition, because I knew nothing about sales. I'm not a good salesperson, but I'm very intuitive.
Yeah.
So I knew how to like, talk to them and just, and I came at it with like a pure heart of like, I want you to go home with an awesome gift. Like, you know what I mean? Like you want to treat your woman. Okay, I'm going to show you, like, we're going to do this. We're going to do it right.
No, I like that. I like that. Cause you're providing like a product. So it's like, you're just kind of making that experience better.
Right. I never felt like I was selling them, but like when I wasn't in the store, our average daily sale would be like $17 or something. Wow. Like that was just,
that's not good.
It was something that was depressing. Let's put it like that. But when I was in the store, the average daily sale would go up to like $68 or $69 or $70.
So how long did you do that?
I owned it for like a year, and then it was, it wasn't necessarily for me. Owning a flower shop is a ton of work. You work every holiday. You work ding to dong. I mean, I was there from like 6, 7 a.m. to like 9:30 or 10.
Wow.
And it was,
That's
it was
crazy.
just a lot, Wow. And as a single mom, it wasn't conducive to having a little kiddo. My daughter was only like 5 at that time. So, yeah.
So where did you go after that?
Back into marketing, into marketing and PR. Yeah.
So have you found, when did this come out exactly, this one?
That's a great question. I feel like my life is just passing by me. So that was earlier this year. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And have you found like people have been receptive to that? Like, I'll be interested to read this. Obviously, I haven't read it, just for anybody listening, but I'd be interested to read it.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it got, I was like, this book was #1 bestseller for about a week, beating out Jeff Bezos' books on
Really?
book
No
on
kidding.
Amazon. So,
Wow.
and I just did the same thing. And we did a little more marketing this time, but not a ton. I mean, I don't necessarily have this big advertising budget or anything. It was just more of like sending out emails and doing some social media and posting in some Facebook groups. And I mean, that was it. I didn't
That's
do any
awesome,
paid
though.
advertising or really even a lot of PR because I was just so busy working at the time. But yeah, so I think the reception has been good. And when people read it, I get little notes, and I really don't advertise it a whole lot, but I'll still get little checks from Amazon. So it's selling, not a ton. Like, I'm not going to get rich off this book, however, but it seems to be striking a note with people.
Yeah,
So.
that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So did you write this in this kind of this similar way that you wrote the first one, as far as the process?
No, because I wrote it at the beginning of the year when I knew I was going. There's like always this lull. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it's like I've noticed, like, no matter where I am in life, the first like few weeks of January, it's like crickets, right? I just feel like everybody.
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that or no?
Yeah, I think as everybody, you want to really ramp up for the new year.
Yeah,
So you're like, okay, let's like, and then nothing happens the first 2
Everything's
weeks.
like really quiet. Like,
That's
you
hilarious.
don't get like people don't invite you out. Like, you
That's so
don't get
funny.
like, just clients are quiet. Everybody's planning, thinking. Everybody's tired. Everybody's broke.
After the holidays, yeah.
It's like, and I just knew that was coming, and I was like,
That's funny.
I've been wanting to do this book, and I just like for 2 weeks, like that was pretty much all I did. I was like, I bet you I'm gonna be slow. I'm gonna write this book, and I did. I just sat down for a couple hours every day and just. But I had been used to that because when I first started freelance writing, I was doing editorial writing only, which editorial jobs don't pay very well. So I was writing like 3 articles a day. So I was used to, I
Writing a lot of material.
I was used to like just knocking it out, like, let's go, So yeah.
That's interesting though. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So after you write it, what's kind of the process like with releasing that through Amazon? Is that pretty streamlined, or like is that?
So there is an excellent resource that I have referred to several times, which is Chandler Bolt has a book and an audiobook called Published, and he describes a process of how to release your book on Amazon to make it a #1 bestseller.
Okay,
He has a
that's interesting.
specific technique that you use. It's like really simple.
And that works.
So
for
I
you?
just
You like
followed that formula every time. Yeah.
What's his name again? Chandler
Bolt.
Chandler Bolt. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So you can download the book for free.
Yeah.
You
that's
know,
awesome.
and so I used that technique, but mainly it was just like sending out to my email subscriber base, and just pushing it on social media and doing some interviews and things, but mostly that was it.
Is there a lot of, because I know there's a lot of like business kind of like self-help books out there. Is there a lot of books like this? As far as like, is there a lot of material out there as far as people talking about
For
intuition and like business decisions and things like that?
intuition for personal life,
Yeah, that's huge.
ton.
Yeah.
But for business, maybe 0. I mean, dare I say 0? And that was part of there's a lot of research papers, but not like a manual, like, here's what you do.
Yeah.
Here's how to use it in the work setting.
Why do you think that is?
Probably because it's just, I think that in general, it's been seen as a very woo-woo, new age topic.
Yeah.
When in reality, people use it all the time. And I find what I'm learning as I'm moving along with this career track is men are very intuitive. There's actually a lot of men on my email list and they'll respond to my emails sometimes and they're like, this is
Into
cool.
it.
Thank you. They're into it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Men are intuitive. But what I'm realizing is men, it's different the way, in the sense of men will use their intuition to make a decision. Women will, after they have an intuition, they'll move into a feeling and then they'll move into a decision. So I find that men and women process that intuition a bit differently, but it's still there for both of us.
Okay. That's interesting.
Men are very intuitive.
Yeah, no, I believe that 100%. Well, that's why I always think the people who are the most successful in business, basically you're like a master psychologist, because you don't get that successful unless you're like extremely emotionally intelligent, you know? Like, yeah, you might have a lot of other people under you that are like specialized in all these different skills. You have this huge company, but like if you're at the highest executive level, like I would think that you have to be really like highly emotionally intelligent.
The hardest thing about a business are the people. The people aspect of it, whether it's your customers or your internal people, or usually both. And so that's definitely an intuition thing. But then one of the things you'll see when you read it is, so there's one study that showed that they studied companies who had doubled their profits over the last 5 years. And in those companies that doubled their profits over the last 5 years, 80% of their executives had precognitive abilities, like mastery of precognitive abilities. So they were very good at using their intuition.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because it fills in the blanks for the data. The data, I mean, especially now in this age of like big data and everything is, you can get just real-time data, like what needs to be ordered in the store, and things like that. But then there's also the intuition kind of fills in the blanks, because there's just some things that the data is never going to be able to predict.
That's interesting. So do you think there'll be more like research on that topic in the future, or more people like writing about that and like how to apply that in a business setting?
I think so. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And the more research I did about it, the more I realized that there's a lot of companies that already value
test for that.
Yeah, they value for that. They value that within their corporate culture, and they kind of even encourage it within their culture.
Yeah, I know like a lot of when you were working for Wells Fargo, like a lot of like executive type positions, don't they do pretty extensive like personality tests and stuff like that? Do they do that in every corporate type like setting, like big corporate setting, or is it
so
different?
I didn't experience that at Wells Fargo.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe they do that now. But I just also might not know. I do know that I had interviewed at GoDaddy at one point, and they do extensive, like they've got like 100 different tests that they do.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's
so
interesting.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. That would be interesting though. I wonder if there are like intuitive specific tests. I know there's personality tests and different but I don't know about intuition one specific though.
Yeah.
That would be fun though.
Yeah, no, hell yeah.
To kind of, because I'd like to do that. I think that would be helpful to like measure kind of the before and after too, of like after working with the tips and tools.
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting. So, do you think this is more something that can be applied? Is this more aimed towards like small businesses, or are you trying to? Is this aiming towards like you can apply this in every level of business that
really
you're in?
You can apply it either to your personal life or anywhere from just like your small business to all the way up to a big business. So yeah, it's just the foundation of it is the same. It's just maybe the settings, like do you work with it in a group setting, or is it just you? Or so what I do, like in the book, I teach the basic foundation of the main 3 steps and kind of the nuances within those steps. So you have that foundation, and then I teach a bunch of different like tools, like techniques that you can use depending on like the kind of decision you're trying to make, or maybe the setting, if it's a group setting, or just you as an individual, or maybe it's a brainstorming session for innovation or creativity. So I kind of break down different techniques that can be used.
Okay.
So you want to learn one?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm always interested in this type of stuff, and I think, I think it's interesting. So yeah, sure.
So this is actually one that's not in the book because I came up with it after, but this is like, I love this one. This is like my go-to now. Okay. So intuition is in your heart, right? So the first thing you do, I'll just teach you the technique and not like the whole foundation, but you connect with your heart by just kind of touching it. You want to do it with me? Okay. So you just kind of touch your heart. You can just like take two fingers and put it on your heart, and think of a question that you might have. Okay. And then kind of tune into your heart. We'll just pretend that we've tuned into our heart. You know, it could take, for me, it takes a few moments, but maybe, yeah. And you just kind of tune into that space, and you know, you're tuned in when it's like, oh, I feel better. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I feel better. Okay. So it could take a few moments or it could take a few minutes, just depends. Then what I do is I extend my arm, and I imagine that there's like almost like a telephone line going from my heart to my two fingers. And I'm going to pretend that one finger is a yes and one finger is a no. So I've got a question, and I'm going to put it in a yes or no form. You know, like, is my name Lara? Yes. And you can practice this, and just, you know, you can put some, you know, you could practice it with just some, like, you know, dummy questions like, my name is Lara, you know, my name is Austin, and kind of, and like, for me, my finger will jerk. But yeah, you can use that to kind of like
that,
make
yeah.
decisions.
Yeah.
Because you're sort of telling your heart to tell your fingers the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
cool.
a good one.
Yeah,
Practice
no, I like
that one.
Yeah, no,
it works.
I like stuff like that where it's like stuff you can kind of do to like chill out and like do on your own, and just, that's what I have a problem with personally. It's just like, I'm always like thinking. I think about stuff too much.
Oh.
So sometimes, you know, it gives you like anxiety.
Hello, me too.
You know?
Yeah.
So I like stuff that you know, how you can kind of relax and, you know, like find your intuition and what the decision is you should really be making.
Yeah. So one of my mentors and old clients is Dr. John DeMartini. He's just like
Martini.
Yeah, Dr. John DeMartini.
Awesome.
He's amazing.
Who was that?
So he was one of the teachers in The Secret.
Oh,
and
wow.
he's
I saw that written down on it. It was like, is that the real, like, the book, The Secret?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back in my PR days, we promoted. We were like part of the, you know, he was our client, and but then because The Secret initially was like this low budget thing that wasn't supposed to blow up, Rhonda didn't even have like a PR firm or anything. So all of the people that were publicists for the teachers that were in The Secret, we were promoting The Secret as well as the teachers. So eventually she got a PR firm and all that. But initially we were the ones doing it. And so all that to say, he has this saying that he says, when your inner voice is louder than the voices on the outside, then you have begun to truly master your life. Something like that. I may have misquoted it. But basically, you know, when your inner voice is louder than everybody else's voice, that's when you can start to master your life. And I get such chills every time I say that. Yeah.
Then you just have to like listen to it, you know, and actually like act on that. That's cool. Hell yeah. So where do you want this to go? Do you want this to go any sort of direction? Like, do you have any goals in the future, like other things that you want to do, or you just kind of want to develop on this?
Yeah, I mean, my vision for this is that that intuition just becomes a more everyday thing for people, and that people feel like it's more approachable. I feel like that's already happening, but I want people to really understand the how it really works, how it works the right way, because there's a lot of myths out there right now that people talk about intuition.
Yeah, everybody. There's
right?
so many like online. That's what we're talking about podcasts. Like there's a billion podcasts. So. But
there's a lot of myths out there. Like people will say, oh, here's a big one that always gets me, is the universe has your back. The universe has...
That sounds good.
It sounds beautiful. I mean, but why do we lock our doors? And why do I have health insurance and car insurance if the universe... Just always it's like...
incredibly scary.
Really? You know, like, I get where they're going with that. You know, I do get it. But more, if you want to be accurate about that, the loving universe has your back. The divine universe has your back. but not anything and everything. So that's a thing with intuition. People will say, oh, universe, show me the way. And it's like, oh my gosh, don't do that, because you are inviting anything and everything to speak into your life. And like I say, there's divine and there's distraction. I can see energy, and I can see that, there's good, bad, and ugly out there, and I'm not afraid of it, because we don't need to be afraid of it. It's all meant to work together. However, you don't want something that's just a lost soul, or something that's just a distraction, or something that doesn't have your best interest in mind talking into your life.
Yeah, it's just a waste of time. Waste your time.
Yeah.
That's why I always think about that someday, hopefully, as like things like this develop in time, that there should be more, like when you're growing up, I think it's more important to know like how to deal with your emotions and things like that versus like historical dates. Like, yeah, you'll learn that later, when you're interested, but it's like dumb that like they should teach you like things like how do you deal with emotions and like deal with like, you know what I'm saying? Like real shit.
We'd probably have like much lower crime rate, and certainly less school shootings.
How to deal with trauma if you've had trauma in your life, like things like that.
And who hasn't had like some kind of trauma, right? Some level.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I agree.
So do you think it's better like for younger people to start like getting into this type of stuff now? Or?
Yeah. The kids, the new generation, the kids, like they are ready. They're all over it. I probably don't even have to teach them. Yeah. They're very natural at it. Yeah. Well, and the thing of it is, I think what's very interesting that's going to happen, like moving forward, I think it's interesting that intuition has become a hot topic in a time when also high technology is emerging as like, running society, right? Because
actually
no, because really like our body and our energetic system and just like our whole body and our is like this really cool technology that we can use to live the life we want. So I think that people are going to start to discover that more and more and more.
Ooh, that's interesting. I like the way you said that. So do you obviously you use like technology to do all these things, like publish books and like social media nowadays. Are you like a person who, do you try to limit like as much as you interact with whatever online or like that type? It's hard to do because like everybody's so addicted to it, you know what I'm saying? Do you think is it good to like limit that type of interaction?
For me, yeah. I have like a passive aggressive, relationship with social media.
Well, I think everybody does.
Yeah. I'll like get on. Of course I use it because I realize it's a vehicle where I can share my message and,
that's the coolest part.
Right. Yeah. Like, and I love like seeing my friends, like kids grow up and things like that. But I do have to limit it because otherwise I'm like find myself like with my head in the phone all the time, and it's like look up and look around and interact with people, and I got really into social media, and then last year because things got, especially like an election year and then 2020 I got like, oh my gosh, no more, and I was like really just off of Facebook and social media, and I was like, I can't take it anymore. Now I'm back on again, but just on a more moderated point of view. But, it's meant to bring us in and addict us, and definitely pulls us away from our own inner voice. Yeah. And I always feel like this is cool, like sitting with a person. Sitting with a person physically, like that's so powerful, Yeah.
I know this gives you, like for me personally, that's why I like this so much, is it gives you like the enjoyment of like this physical like conversation or being in person. And then I also think it's kind of relaxing to listen to too. Like even if you're not like, that's why I love Rogan so much, because you feel like you're sitting in a room kind of sometimes with these people,
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I'm doing this. Because trust me, I hate social media. Like I would not be like doing any of this. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But
like in all things, in moderation, a little bit of anything is no problem,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why I think. Because I think, like you said, everybody during the pandemic, everybody kind of went like all in, because a lot of people are like nothing else to do, like, so that might have been a good thing though, because then you have to take a step back and be like, okay, what what am I going to do with my life? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
People have been reevaluating. I've seen so many like, breakups and new careers and, like just so many changes for people. And I think it's been positive in my opinion.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
it feels like the world is falling apart, but to
Yeah.
me, I see the long vision of it's kind of like we're cleaning house right now. It's like when you clean house, everything gets more, all the dust bunnies come out and
Yeah.
like it gets dirty and things are just kind of messy before they get better. I feel like that's where we're at right now. Things are kind of messy, but it's going to get better.
Yeah.
We're not going backward, we're going forward.
Yeah, hell yeah. That
Yeah.
sounds good to me.
I was excited like when people started to rise for, racial equality and just all those things. It's like, yeah, that's, all things like that. It's like, yeah, when are we going to like finally like put an end to this? This is ridiculous. Like, I'm only one person. What could I do? So I was glad to see that happen. I mean, I don't like to see violence happen, but
No, yeah.
But yeah, things like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. As far as using, I wish I had read this so I know
Oh, no,
more.
it's okay.
But like,
I only just brought it to you.
yeah, do you like using these sort of techniques? Like you said, it not only could help your whatever, you own a business, small business, or you're working for a corporation, but you think it flows into your personal life too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just think about like all the times we don't listen to our intuition, and then it costs us money, it costs us heartache, things like that. So just imagine all the things you can avoid. And also like what I'm learning even for myself is using your intuition is a lot of it is about getting out of your own way. And I'm noticing that as I do that more and more. So when I started doing readings full time, I thought, because before that I had been doing readings for a long time.
When did you start doing that?
Full time?
Yeah.
Well, I launched doing that last year full time, and I really didn't start. I like basically got no business last time. Last year it was like zero.
Yeah.
But this year it totally picked up, and I've been working full time.
And these are like individual people you'll work with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it's just on business and like personal
Yeah.
level? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool.
Yeah. And so I didn't know like how do people even do this all day? Like that seems like it would drain me. I didn't know how. I was like, I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But what I learned is if I could just get out of my own way, if I could get out of the way and just learn how to go with the flow versus trying to control it and worrying, am I going to be right? Are they going to be happy? And just say, forget it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it is so funny. I've had probably 2 or 3 sessions with someone where I was like, oh, I didn't get a lot of feedback. Maybe they weren't happy, but then they came back.
Oh, okay, nice.
So I was like, okay, some people just don't, emote a lot.
Yeah, give you a lot of feedback.
Yeah,
Okay.
but getting out of my own way, it was the key. It was like, then I found like I wasn't expending so much energy. It became so much easier.
That's
And I
interesting.
say that because you're asking about personal life.
Yeah.
I just feel like it also becomes good for like your health and just your peace, your peace of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hardest like balance, I think. Like for me, I'm still trying to find, is like someday you get there, but what's the balance between like how much time you spend making money versus like enjoying your life, So like I feel like a lot of people in this country, like you feel constantly paranoid about like you have to be thinking about making money 24/7. So it's like, how do you find that balance to where you're actually like enjoying your life and making money,
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it boils down to a certain level of faith.
Yeah, that's the hard
and
part.
putting it together, putting the faith together with like the strategy. But that's for me too. Like as a business owner, I've like every day, I know like at the end of the day, it's like I count it, because I have a goal, I have a daily goal, and I want to see where did I measure from that goal. So I do that. But also like I have to remember it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Because how have I ever been homeless? No. Have I ever starved? No. Have I always had what I needed? Yes. So stop it, Lara. Stop it. Just relax, So I have to, I battle with that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like having that faith of like, okay, my inner voice is guiding me, and then I'm gonna, I always say, like, validate that inner voice too. Don't just, one of the myths out there is, it'll be like, hashtag women's intuition is always right. No, it's not.
Are you sure? Really?
It is not.
Oh, that's going to bump some people out.
Yeah, it is. No one wants to hear that. That's not fun. But listen, I've done probably more than 1,000, well over 1,000 readings this year alone.
Wow.
And my accuracy rate, based on like clients that have come to me for several years at this point, is somewhere between 90 and 97%. Okay, that's pretty high. Okay, when I do it for myself, for my own intuition, I want to say it drops down into like somewhere between 80 and 90, because I come in with my own biases. It's hard for me to,
Yeah, that's interesting.
So there's no way, I'm sorry, there's no way that your intuition is always going to be right. For one, sometimes things change. For two, I would say the main thing that I've noticed for me, like in doing readings, is I might interpret it wrong. So I try to tell people, like, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I'm hearing, so that they can interpret it. But usually, like, so how I do readings is like, I'll have a feeling, or I'll hear something, or I'll see something. I might feel something, my throat might close, or I might smell something. So it's like all the senses. But I'll try to just tell them, this is exactly what but it'll also come with a download. So I'll give them the download. But I try to have them interpret it more than me, because that's kind of where things will get lost. It's just like speaking another language. Things get lost in translation sometimes. So it's like,
Yeah.
That's why I always say validate.
And do you enjoy, like, obviously if you've done so many, do you enjoy doing that? Like, you want to continue to do that more?
I love it. I mean, I feel, when people say thank you and they write me back and they're like, you won't believe what you said, it did happen. And I'm always like, I know, it kind of freaks me out too, still to this day, I mean, really, truly, it does. I just always go, okay, thank you. Like, I'm glad I'm helping people.
Yeah.
And I hope my main thing with giving readings is I hope it opens their eyes to the process, that the process is real and they can do it too. You don't have to be a professional psychic medium, but you can, it's like math. I suck at math. I use my fingers. I got to use a calculator, but I can do math. I mean, I can calculate a sale. I can, I can calculate things, basic things,
whatever
right?
you need
Distance
to know,
equals
like
rate times time, basic stuff to get through life. But so I can be a user of math. Same thing with intuition. You don't have to be a professional at it where you're giving people readings and stuff, but you can be a user level. You can use it for your everyday life.
Yeah, I love that. That's why. What do you think do people tell you, like, what is the biggest thing that blocks people from, do you think it's fear that blocks people from following their intuition?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's what I'm always thinking about, is I think it's like, how do I not necessarily like follow my intuition, but how do I not like be fearful, basically? I don't know if that's the same thing.
Yeah, no, I know, I hear you. Yes, I think you're onto something, because I would say the biggest barrier is just lack of experience. So like in my process, I teach people opt in, document, validate. And with that, that's what the second step is all about, document. It's so that you can kind of start to like keep track of your wins and your wins and losses. Okay. And you can start to really, because intuition works a little different for everyone. So you want to like start to understand, like, how does it work for you, so that like, that voice when it comes, it, like, your best friend's voice, like, your mother's voice, it's like, okay, yeah, I know that feeling. I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to go down that bunny trail a little bit and see, because, so I would say fear, yes, but the fear comes from lack of experience. So you just, main thing, practice.
So you think after time, it becomes more like natural to just make, because I think, I can't remember what that was. Whatever you had sent me, that it's like when you're making more quick decisions, sometimes that could be better because it's based off of like intuition. Is that what I thought I had read?
Yeah, intuition and speed work together. Yeah, that's the studies show it, and I have found it for myself as well. the more you spend time trying to decide something, the more likely it is you're going to make the wrong choice.
Yeah.
That's what all the studies show.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So is there, in this book, what do you think kind of the main difference was in this versus your first book as far as kind of the lessons that were taught? Is there any like main kind of like...
So I teach the same basic 3-step foundation, but I teach, in this one, it's more tools and techniques depending on like the kind of decision that you're making or like the setting that you're in.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also I provide a lot of examples of like different companies that sort of are using intuition for different reasons, and different, almost like case studies.
That's awesome. I love that. Have you ever read the book, Think and Grow Rich? Have you heard that book?
Oh, I have not. I'm
Really?
probably like the only person on earth who's not.
That's
but
like
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
That's the only like business advice book that I've ever read, really. But it's they talk about that. Like, I can't remember when it was written. Like, I don't know what it was, like the early 1900s.
Yeah.
But it was written by this dude who like followed a bunch of successful people around and wrote down like what he thought was what made them successful. But there is like pieces in that book that they talk a lot about. I can't remember what the exact, it's intuition, but I can't remember what the exact, it's like old time talk of like,
right. Just
new
put in
age
different
types.
terms.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
yeah.
it's similar, like, so I thought that was interesting that a book that old and people were talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it was definitely not like a new thing at all.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Crazy. So can I ask you just like a little bit about just back on the like technology pieces?
Yeah.
Where do you see that going as far as like in the future, people with their lives and implementing that in their lives? Do you have like any opinion on that? Like as far as, I don't know, just the future?
Like technology versus intuition, or like...
Well, like how, like just from your own personal opinion, like how do you think that the technology will develop, and how should, in your opinion, like people, how should they, I don't know, like how should they use technology in the best possible way in their life, you know?
Right.
What's that?
Approach it, like how they should, as technology.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
How they should approach it into their everyday life and business.
Well, no.
Yeah. No, I hear your
Like,
question.
yeah,
I
just
hear
like
it.
how, yeah, not even in business, just in general,
Yeah,
like how
because
technology.
everything is going to get more automated.
Yeah.
Like, you know, already our thermostats are getting more automated. Like everything is, you know, like, they talk about the Internet of Things. So
Yeah.
you could have like everything. You like now there's a, of course we have like the Echo and the, you know.
Oh, the Alexa and
the
all
Alexa
that stuff.
and all
Yeah.
those
I
things.
know that creeps me out. I don't have
like,
one of those.
oh, I know. I
Yeah.
won't have one. Nope. But
Good for you.
yeah, no.
That's good.
But you know, you can automate a lot of things, and that's only going to get more and more. Like I know there's a neat one where you can. It's like a pet thing where you can, if you're not at home, like the little device will like feed your spit out like a treat
I've
to
seen
your
that before. I
pet.
know what you're talking
And
about.
there's just a bazillion different like
Yeah.
applications for
Little
internet
inventions.
for the Internet of Things in the home. So things will get more and more automated, and I hope that teaches us to be like more. I hope that frees us up to be more self-aware and in our bodies versus like outwardly focused, because it could kind of go either way. But if you think about it, like just having washing machines, like that was a huge invention, because
It frees up your time.
It frees up your time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hopefully it will free up our time in a positive way that allows us to be more focused on like quality of living, and focused on like living the life that we really want to live, versus like binding us up even more into like, I feel like I need to buy into consumerism,
Yeah, that's
or you know, into like this thing is telling me what to do and running my life. So it can kind of go either way, you know, with that. So it just depends on like how the individual decides to incorporate it into their life.
Yeah, I saw a commercial today. It was the first commercial that I saw that I think like BMW is putting Alexa in their cars, all their cars now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
So
hope you
like
can
you have it
disable
all
it.
integrated, but I think like you said, it's interesting. I think it could go like either way, and it's just like how do you, like you said, use it? How do you use like the technology to make your life better and free you up to do things that are like, you know, enriching for your life, you know, versus
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like play
Yeah.
video games all day or something.
Yeah,
like
and enriching, that's a good, versus like letting it free you up so that you only just like fill it up with more busy work.
that. Yeah.
Which is, by the way, like I totally am guilty of doing that, you know?
Yeah, well, for
I
sure,
mean,
yeah.
I know this from firsthand experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, it, you know, it can be empowering, but it could also be disabling depending on like how far you go with it,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, I know. Sometimes like the future kind of scares me a little bit, but I'm sure it'll all work out. So
It'll all work out for
Yeah.
sure. I think we're going into a, you know, they call it the golden age. You know, we're going into a more expanded time where people are going to be more and more empowered to live a life that they want to live. Yeah,
yeah, I hope you're right. I definitely hope you're right.
I know I am.
Hell yeah. Is there anything else you want to add about like the book or any other topic that you kind of wanted to bring up about anything that you're doing in your personal life or in the future? I know this just came out recently, so everybody listening, AIM, the Analytical Intuition Method, Lara Piu on Amazon.
Yeah.
Is that Amazon?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's I believe it's everywhere where books are sold. However,
Okay.
best source I would say just get it on Amazon. And you could get it digital copy. You know, you can get it like a Kindle version, or you could get just the physical copy. And it's really, I mean, as you see, it's a quick read, you know, but it's jam packed. I'm not, you know, one of those writers that likes I really get annoyed when I read those books and you can tell that they're just trying to fill the pages.
Yeah.
And it's like they're making the same point over and over. And it's like,
Definitely, yeah.
I got it. I don't do that. This is like self-published. So I don't have some editor that's like, no, we need another 50,000 words. No, this is no fluff, gets right to it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, final words, I would say just, you know, if you're going to take away one thing, just, you know, start to tap into your intuition through the heart and just start to use it. I'm guessing, so 50% of Americans say they use their intuition, but 4 out of 5 say that they don't trust it. So my guess is that a lot of your people that are watching are using their intuition, but they're not, it's inconsistent. So one of the best ways, aside from reading the book, one of the best ways to start is to start, you know, to listen to it and start practicing. And then if you have questions, pick up my book.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, just continue to practice that and move forward, and hopefully, you know, that works better for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, hell yeah, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time
Yeah,
to talk
thanks
to
for
me and
having
us,
me.
and I
It's been
appreciate
fun.
this. So, yeah,
Good
awesome.
conversation.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Later.